Hello everyone, I am back and I have a task. I'm a little nervous. I have to pick out a bottle that's already opened. Alright, gonna go with this one. We'll see if he's able to figure out what it is. We'll see if I can open it. I have to write it down. So we got it. Alright. I'm gonna put like a coaster on top of it just to be extra super secure.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to this week's Bourbon of the Week. In August and September, we have been bringing you different content, and this one is going to be a new series called Bourbon News. This is where I'm going to give you different bourbon news going on around the bourbon community. But in the meantime, while I do this, I'm going to sip blindly on something, as you saw Marissa pour up. And at the end, I'm going to see if I can guess what it was while I bring this news. So let's get into our first segment of Bourbon News, brought to you by Bourbon of the Week. So everybody knows, before we get started on our bourbon news, time for the traditional sip. Seems low proof. So for this week's bourbon news, it's been brought to you by Heaven Hill Distillery. Now, it's been nearly 2 weeks since employees at Heaven Hill Distillery went on strike. If you haven't heard about this, listen up. Now, when the strike began early Saturday morning, they lost their pay, they lost their health insurance, and they lost their patience with management. Karen Green, a utility worker at Heaven Hill, says, and I quote, "We are Heaven Hill proud, but we are also union proud, and we're going to stand our ground." Another employee, a bottle filler there, Tanya Downs, says, "We've had COVID. We stayed in there 7 days a week. We worked 12-hour shifts, and they still sit here and smack us in the face like this. And you want to say family? Please explain to me what family is." Now, these are harsh words coming out of the employees here, while nearly 97% of them in this union voted to go on strike against Heaven Hill. Now, I'm going to bring in one of our TikTokers here, which is Kraken Suburban. This is Casey from TikTok. Casey, can you tell me what exactly is this dispute about?
This is a labor dispute. They're fighting for higher pay. Worker pay is significantly lower than with other similar distilleries. They have a non-traditional overtime revamp going on that results in less overtime pay than they previously had.
And Casey, can I ask you this as well? What's going on, and what is your experience with this?
I'm a union worker. I know a lot of you are in the union. I like to support my union brothers and sisters. Heaven Hill had several days before their contract expired to reach out and try to fix stuff, and they didn't. What they did do was they cut off everyone's health insurance.
Casey, thank you for that, and thank you for joining us here today on Bourbon News. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen, in the middle of a pandemic, Heaven Hill has decided to cut off health insurance from its workers when they're just asking for equal pay compared to other distilleries of this size. It's estimated that Heaven Hill brings in over $500 million annually, and that's not a small sum. Now, the question is, what is Heaven Hill going to do next? There are local distilleries as well as nationwide distilleries and bars that are pulling their product off the shelves, and I can tell you there are a lot of people on TikTok and in the YouTube community who are pouring their product down the drain. So Heaven Hill, the question is, what's the next move? Send it back over to you, Chris, and see if you can figure out what's in that bourbon. Thanks, Chris, and that's right, I do not know exactly what I'm sipping on yet, but let's see if we can figure it out here. Now, when I first took a couple sips of this, I did think it's a lower proof bourbon, and I still do believe that here. It also doesn't seem like it has a high rye, so it's either a very low rye mash bill or it's a wheated bourbon, and I'm kind of leaning towards the wheated bourbon side, which might be good for me because I don't have a lot of wheated bourbons in my collection, especially lower proof ones. So we're talking about the Weller's over here. It's definitely not a Weller full proof, and it definitely doesn't seem to have enough of a flavor profile to be a Weller Antique 107. Maybe a Weller Special Reserve. What other wheated bourbons do I have? We have the Larceny. I doubt that she would pick up that big bottle of Larceny, although I'm not too sure. That picture looks a little off, so maybe it's the Larceny. What else do we have? Maker's Mark. It's definitely not a Maker's Mark. Now, I don't love it. It's definitely lower proof. It's definitely thinner on the mouthfeel. See, now I'm getting a little bit of spice with this second one. This is interesting. This is the first time I've done a blind like this, where it's anything that can be on my shelf up here. And I'm not quite sure what this is. Let's just go through real quick. It's definitely not any 1792. Chicken cock, no. Chicken cock? No. She's kind of too short to reach up there too, don't you think? I didn't even think of that. I wonder if she got on the chair or anything. I don't think it's anything. Barrel, no. Rebel Yell. Ooh. Rebel Yell is a wheated whiskey, is it not? Am I just making these things up? Defiantly smooth wheated whiskey. Is it Rebel? Did she reach all the way up to the top shelf and pick up a Rebel? I don't remember loving Rebel. Again, it was a wheated whiskey. I do think that it's a lower proof. We have the answer right here, by the way. I'm very curious. I don't want to guess too quickly because I don't want to come out of this looking like an idiot. But am I wrong? Am I leaning wheated and it's just a low rye? Let's think. Is this a finished bourbon? No, it's not a finished bourbon. It definitely doesn't have any weird, funky, finished tastes to it. It's not an old tub because it doesn't have like the old. It doesn't have the Jim Beam peanuttiness to it. It's definitely not like a Penelope because it's not a barrel strength by any means. Bullet, no, would be a little bit spicier. New Riff, no, I don't think it's that. It's definitely not the Old Fitz, and the Old Fitz. Now it's because that's 100 proof. That's a bottled and bond. There's no way it's a Stag. Buffalo Trace, baby. That's kind of a lower mash bill of the Buffalo Trace. A Buffalo Trace store pick would definitely be interesting with this, but I don't think that's what it is. My guess off the rip was Weller Special Reserve, and I might have to stick with my guns on this and guess Weller Special Reserve, which is going to be embarrassing if it's not Weller's. If this is like a any type of Wild Turkey or anything, which I just don't believe it is. Although she is a big Russell's fan. There's no way this is Russell's though. There's no way. Kentucky Spirit. I only had a glass of that. It just doesn't seem to have enough rye for it to be any type of Wild Turkey product to me. But again, if it is, that's kind of embarrassing because I love Wild Turkey. She wouldn't fake me out and pour me up a Russell's Reserve single barrel on this, would she? Interesting. This is very tough. I didn't think this would be this difficult. But then maybe I'm right. Maybe I have this right off the bat, and this is a Weller Special Reserve. I don't know what she would be thinking, what her process is for picking any of these out. Should I? I'm just going to see. This is just wheat from my bourbon nosing kit. She doesn't even know what a wheated bourbon is. Like, there's no way she would look up there and be like, oh, I'm going to pick a wheated bourbon. This is interesting. There's not a lot of oak. There's no tobacco or leather. So it doesn't seem like it would have a lot of age to it. What is Special Reserve? 90 proof? Yeah, 90 proof on the Special Reserve. I can't drink this. That would be cheating, right? Do we think it's the Weller? Ooh, Eagle Rare. It's definitely not Eagle Rare. I'm trying to like think through Marissa's head here. I don't think she would pour. I guess I do have a second bottle, so maybe she would pour that up. By the way, I didn't steal this concept. The Bourbon Van does a similar thing called 5 Sip Friday where they have their Patreon send them some samples and they try and talk through what it is. This isn't 5 Sip Friday because I'm taking way more than 5 sips, but I did steal this blind taste test, not knowing anything about it, going into it blind from them. So make sure you check out the Bourbon Van. I talk about them all the time, but I love Phil and Julie, so I wanted to try and roll with my own spin off this. And this Heaven Hill Distillery thing is absolutely crazy, by the way. I know we were just joking about the whole news cycle thing, but I'm not in a labor union. I've never been in a labor union. I know a lot of people in the bourbon community that I speak to and that I talk to on TikTok and I talk to on YouTube are in unions, and I don't understand them. My brother-in-law was in a union or is in a union. I'm not really sure which one at this point, but I don't really understand them. I understand the concept of them as far as making sure that the employees are getting treated correctly. There's football unions. I understand how sports unions and all that kind of stuff. I understand how they work. I'm just not personally in one. Now, that being said, Heaven Hill has a obligation here to treat its employees fairly. Now, I'm not for overstepping your reach. If you're getting what you deserve to get, it doesn't sound like they're getting what they deserve to get, the employees here. So I'm going to be on the employee side of things when it comes to this, especially against a big corporation like Heaven Hill, who's putting out, like it says here, $500 million annual profits. Let's not act like you guys are struggling, especially in a pandemic where liquor sales skyrocketed. Plus in a bourbon boom where bourbon sales are skyrocketing. Everything about your company is going up and you want to take either pay cuts or not pay your employees correctly. Now, if you're from Heaven Hill and you're watching this, sorry to hear that from the corporate side of things, I suppose. I'm sorry, you're hearing this from me. Not that I'm anybody, but at the same time, I think that Heaven Hill will cave before the employees do in this particular stance, because the employees have a right to get paid. They have a right to get their health insurance back, and they shouldn't be treated like this in the middle of a pandemic, let alone any time. And that's just my 2 cents on it, outside of the joking part of our little bourbon news here. So let's get back into this. Let's clean this up. Let's close it up. I'm going to guess Weller Special Reserve, and I'm going to be embarrassed if it's one, not a wheated bourbon, or two, another bourbon that I actually love, because this one, it's okay. I don't want to give it a score, but I would say it's okay. Maybe it's something else, but we'll just check. We're going to check it out. Old Tub. Now that's crazy, because I mentioned Old Tub, and I didn't think that this has the peanutness of a Jim Beam product. It doesn't really have the nuttiness that I'm used to getting on a Jim Beam product. Now, I didn't love Old Tub. It got a pretty good score because it's a, $17 bottle of bourbon? But I was completely wrong on the wheated side of things. But again, it's okay. It's nothing special. It's very light. Old Tub is what? 90 proof? 100 proof. Okay. So now I feel a little bit weird, because I did not think that this was 100 proof bourbon. I was thinking it was in that 90 proof range, which is why I picked Weller Special Reserve. Now, do I have to, and did I just compare Old Tub to Weller Special Reserve here on this channel? I mean, it's a $15 bottle versus a $17 bottle, or a $24 bottle. Now I gotta just try it out. Old Tub. I said it too. I said it, but I said it didn't have the peanuttiness. So this is the Old Tub. This is the Weller. This is embarrassing. Okay. Weird. They taste very similar. If you have both of these, pour these up. Now this is, Jim Beam's made some haziness when you add ice. That's fine because of the carbon. Yeah. But that's interesting. Now, I already mixed these up. I think this was the Old Tub and this was the... They're both a little thin. Now, the Old Tub is definitely a little bit sweeter, but pour these up side by side. You might be surprised, actually, the way that these taste kind of similar. Weller Special Reserve versus Old Tub. Who do you have winning? I still think Weller wins it, but not by much. Not by much at all. But that's where we're going to leave it on this week's Bourbon News. We're going to try and do this a little bit more often. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Make sure you try Old Tub next to Weller Special Reserve, and you tell me which one you like the best. And then comment down below what you think Heaven Hill should do here, or if you agree with the Union side of things or with the distillery side of things. I can tell you right now that I do love the Heaven Hill products, other than like the Elijah Craig and everything, but like McKenna Henry, yeah, still call it McKenna Henry instead of Henry McKenna. One of my favorites. But as for right now, I might hold off on drinking those just to try and support the union workers that are trying to get fair wages. But again, make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. We drop a bunch of stuff there for giveaways. And make sure you check me out on Patreon and in our Discord. Both links down below if you want to help support me or come chat with me anytime on Discord. Appreciate you guys stopping by, and we'll see you next time on Bourbon News. Cheers.